Calling all podcasters, musicians, vloggers, and reporters, and everyone else who wants crystal clear recording that's super portable. The Shure Motive family of microphones makes studio-quality audio that's as simple as plug and play. Many of the world's top podcasters rely on Shure, and with a Motive line of iOS and USB microphones, portability is now your friend. Imagine being able to get great audio quickly and easily from your phone, tablet, or computer. Simply visit shure.com/motive to start getting great audio for your content now. That's SHURE.com/MOTIV.
Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1406. And today's show, is continuing my idea for Sundays for a while, is an interview that I did for Job Search Radio, I'd say about 4 years ago, with Dave Altman, who's the founder and chairman of ExecuNet, a service that is founded to support senior professionals with finding work. Hope you find it helpful. The audio quality sounds like two people speaking over the phone. And you know what? That's what we did in those days. We recorded over phone through a service, and, I've obviously gotten a lot better. So with that, let's get going, okay?
And my guest on this show is Dave Altman, who's chairman and founder of ExecuNet. Since founding it in 1988, Dave has used his 40 years of experience in HR to develop and grow the nation's premier career and business network solely for senior-level executives with salaries above $150,000 per year. Dave, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on.
Jeff, thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you. You know, Dave, I think everyone thinks of LinkedIn as being the premier place to network. And, in this day when we have LinkedIn going for us, what's the purpose to, in-person groups? How do they really serve people and support them with finding work? And how does ExecuNet kind of fit into that?
Well, we fit in a lot of different ways, but let me just focus on the on the live part of it. I guess the short answer, Jeff, would be that it seems to me that in today's kind of techno-driven environment, there's a lot of buzz in the job search world around online, both in terms of jobs and networking. And we actually serve our members both in both areas, both online and offline, and especially when it comes to networking. As you probably, I'm sure you know this as well or better than I do, that of the roads that people travel in making a change, networking is by far and away the most powerful and effective. In fact, I'll tell you that over the years, 70% of our members tell us that networking was the critical factor for them. And interestingly enough, they also tell us that chain of contacts started with someone they did not know at the beginning of their search. And I've seen that research. You may very well have seen it yourself that said that was the case, but I can certainly tell you after 26 years here at ExecuNet, I hear it from members every day. So that being the case, we wanted to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help members expand their personal and professional networks. And so the face-to-face meetings that we have around the country and in Canada are one of the things that we do to that end. And just
it's interesting, Dave. I'm going to jump in here and agree with you and simply say that what I've found in my experience and the statistics I see is very similar to what you say. It tends to be focused on the recruiter side of things just because that's what I do professionally.
Right.
But the statistics I see are job boards fill 3% to 5% of all positions, depending upon who's promoting the statistics. Recruiters fill 20 to 23%. Now, I know there's some overlap because some recruiters use job boards, so what I do is I lump both categories together and I up it a little bit. And I say 30% are filled by recruiters and job boards. 70% is left in networking. I hadn't seen that statistic about people that someone didn't know being the source of so many jobs. So it's great to hear that, and that really does reinforce the idea of networking.
Yeah, it's an interesting stat that I've heard about and I've read about it. And what's interesting about it is because I think the knee-jerk reaction on the part of most people when they get into a job search is they say, well, okay, I'll start with my A list, what we call, your A list. And they soon find out, or at least the vast majority of them tend to find out, that those people that are on their A list are not the ones that turn out to be real critical links for them. And as I said, I've seen research by people who are, doing PhD kind of stuff. It's called the weak link theory or something along those lines, and it's been demonstrated over and over and over again that that's kind of how it works, and nobody seems to understand why.
I think it's part of human nature. We take people close to us for granted. I know I've been involved with an international men's group for the longest time, and what I've found is there are a lot of people that I meet through that group who I've really become very close to, and we don't really talk about professional stuff, but I see them in a certain light, and I discover that professionally they do something incredible, and it just doesn't compute for me. And I don't think of asking them for business because I know them socially, and in theory that's my close connection, and I just don't promote myself there. And thus, it's really been with the second level, the friends of friends, that I've really gotten my best contacts.
And I think a lot of us feel that way. You're first of all, we're sometimes, I think, to some degree, brought up in an environment that says you're not supposed to, put that kind of pressure on people that you're, quote, really, really friends with. And on the friend side of it, it's not that people don't want to help you, but I think sometimes they feel uncomfortable because they can't do maybe as much as they would like.
However it is, that's the outcome. It tends to be people that you don't know initially who become great allies and incredibly helpful. Mm-hmm. So I hear you. In-person meetings and the opportunity to meet connections in person go a long way toward developing those weak links that allow people to get more introductions and ultimately jobs.
Well, I think there's another piece to it as well in terms of online versus face-to-face. And that is that, and this is especially true, I think, when it comes to something as personal and as a job search. And it's simply this, that I don't know about you, but I don't refer people almost to anything unless I feel very comfortable in terms of that individual and that I feel I have the correct amount of trust with that person. And that's not something that, happens instantly, but it happens an awful lot faster when those relationships begin and continue on a face-to-face basis as opposed to communicating online.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people wind up being better fostered in person rather than online?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with when you're in a conversation with somebody, at least as far as the U.S. is concerned, and I've found this pretty much true in my travels, and that is when I'm face to face, I obviously get the benefit not just of the tone of your voice, which I can get over the phone, but I'm looking at you in the eye. It can be it's more free flowing than the kind of stop and go that happens when you're sitting at a keyboard and kind of in a sense anonymously behind a facade. So I just think it's it's just part of our culture that you want to look somebody in the eye. You want to have the opportunity to build a relationship, and there just is no substitute for face-to-face, and certainly for something like this. That's why why do interviews take place face-to-face? For the similar reasons, I would say.
And although many interviews are now being done by Skype and other technology tools, you're absolutely right. Ultimately, the firm will want to meet with someone in order to confirm what they've seen through Skype or the other technology before hiring.
Yep.
And I happen to agree with your assessment, by the way. I wasn't trying to trap you there in any way.
No.
I feel the same way, and I always like to hear someone else's opinion before stating mine, because I like to learn some things on these shows, too. So what I've heard you say so far is, number one, face-to-face groups work because they do. You make different kinds of connections from people outside your immediate circle that pay off more often than not. And number two is we get a chance to see people face-to-face and size them up and develop those relationships with them differently than we do through our online persona.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I'm sure it does to my listeners as well.
I think it not only works in from a job search perspective, but just think about it in this. And what I meant at the outset was that, there's so much buzz around online that, we tend to maybe forget or, think that there are an awful lot of face-to-face events that go on around the country and around the world. And they continue to do very, very well. And for the simple reason that it's a chance for people to actually, meet face-to-face and interact with each other as opposed to online, which I think tends to have a sense of, sort of instant gratification and, sound bites. And that's different than having a conversation.
It's the same thing when you see people communicate on social media.
Yeah.
They also tend to be far more extreme in how they communicate, thus not really displaying their true personalities there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting...
Thus being in person allows people to moderate more to the norm than online, where they tend to be able to hide and be a little bit more, shall we say, extreme. It's just a better professionally to be in those personal situations. And again, not to disparage LinkedIn. I use it as part of my work. I know your firm has a group online that is enormous.
Yes, we do.
Helps people tremendously. But ultimately, face-to-face is a great way to really build those relationships that lead to the interviews and to the hires.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I know you are, and so are 285 million other people. So there's certainly nothing wrong with it. I just think it's I think it's a question of how you use the tools that are at your disposal. I still think, hopefully, we still live in a world where we manage the system rather than having the system manage us.
I agree with you. And folks, you're listening to Job Search Radio on webtalkradio.net. We'll be back with more from Dave in just a moment. But I first want to provide you with my Job Search Insider tip, which is going to be about counteroffers. Now, I know many recruiters hate the notion of counteroffers. They may go so far as to send you this article that was written 30 years ago with the incredibly scary headline, Counteroffers, the Road to Ruin, really dramatic kind of stuff that suggests to you that the reason why firms provide you with a counteroffer is they don't want to lose you right then and there. They're willing to pay the premium to keep you, but as soon as what they need you for is done, they're out the door. They're going to fire you and send you packing. And they're always going to question your loyalty because, after all, when it comes time for the promotion, should they reward you or the loyal one who didn't put a gun to their head to leave in order to get more money? And on the other hand, personally, I don't believe that's always true. I know in some instances that's happened to people. But ultimately, firms make counteroffers because they don't want to lose someone, period. None of the extra stuff is the case. And my encouragement to you is, if you are going to consider a counteroffer, I want you to really sit down and evaluate and review the criteria that prompted you to start looking for a job in the first place. And make sure that the counteroffer addresses those criteria. After all, it wasn't just money that brought you to the point of wanting to look for something else. There were many factors that you had to weigh. And hopefully you followed some of my previous advice and created a list of items that allows you to be able to review them and ensure that the counteroffer addresses those points. Because if it doesn't, and it's only about the money, ultimately you'll wind up being dissatisfied. So that's my insider tip for this show. Let's come back to Dave, and let's continue our conversation about ExecuNet and online groups. In-person groups, I should say. So We've spoken about some of the things that make in-person groups extremely attractive. And I want to make sure that no one gets the idea I'm disparaging online groups as well. How does ExecuNet use the online model to support its members?
Well, we do it in a couple of different ways, Jeff. As you mentioned earlier, online we have, I think it's the second or third largest group on LinkedIn. And it's very active, and certainly one of the reasons the group is that size is because we do a lot of what you do in terms of trying to provide value to your listeners. We don't use that group as a blatant kind of promotional vehicle. We try to provide to that group content that is meaningful and has value to them, and do that on a continuous basis. And that's why the group continues to grow. And it grows actually pretty much the same way that that the network has grown over the years, and that's by referral. Even with all the noise in kind of the career space, the vast majority of our members still come to us by referral, either through active members, former members, or recruiters, as a matter of fact. So we try to, as I said, provide value. And we do the same thing online in membership. We have a very robust functionality that allows members to interact with each other. Not too un-LinkedIn-like, except for there is a major difference, and that is this is a membership. And therefore members can communicate with other members. They don't have to go through anybody or get introduced to anybody. They can do it themselves. And they have the common base to start from in the sense that they're all members of the same organization.
Interesting. What could someone expect at a typical ExecuNet meeting that they attend?
Well, they tend to be, first of all, they're all professionally facilitated, either by a career management professional or a business coach, because we want that meeting to be structured and obviously at a professional level. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that there's a modest charge to come to a meeting, because we want the people who attend to be, really kind of have some skin in the game in terms of we want you to come there with the right attitude and a willingness to help others. So basically, the structure usually involves some kind of many times we will have a speaker talking on a wide variety of topics, not all necessarily job search related, by the way. So that people hopefully can walk away with some learnings as well as the opportunity to meet others. And then each meeting usually has a structured portion as well as the unstructured things that happen at any kind of a meeting when people are getting drinks or coffee or whatever, where it's structured so that people have the opportunity in a structured format to kind of tell the group who they are, kind of what kind of problems do they solve, how they can be of help to the group, and lastly, how the group can be of help to them. And we do it specifically in that order so that we reinforce the idea that effective networking starts with being more giving than worrying about getting.
Give more, get more isn't just a
Absolutely.
biblical statement.
Yep.
It's a way of life, and I know in my career I found that to be the case too.
Yep.
Lord knows I don't get rich by doing podcasts. I'm here trying to help folks find work because I've learned over the course of time most people make the mistake of believing that the skills needed to find the job aren't necessary, that if they can just do the job, that's enough.
Well,
they are complementary skills for most people need to be learned and practiced and repracticed to support them with finding work. So I spend a lot of time and effort providing coaching to people in order to help them find work.
Well, it's particularly true, and you probably find this as well, that most of us, if we're fortunate in our careers, looking for a job is not something that we do all that often, and therefore you may be very, very comfortable and expertise at what you do from a professional perspective, but when you're faced with the challenge of trying to make a job change, particularly in the kind of economy that we've had for the last several years, to say that it is daunting would be an understatement.
Very true. And most people do make that mistake of lurching from job search to job search instead of having a cohesive career plan that allows them to do continuous networking, branding, and promotion that position themselves as a subject matter expert that people want to reach out to for opportunities. And my assumption is that what I call old-timers, people who've graduated from the immediate need of your groups will periodically come back, talk to the members, provide them with pep talks and encouragement in an effort to remind them that, number one, they're not alone, number two, that you can find success through the group, and number three, to do their own networking. Some of them may be trying to pick up some people and develop some new relationships.
Yeah. Well, one of the other ways, in addition to, that we try to help on the online area, is we do an awful lot in terms of content, particularly webinars, all of which are recorded and available to members on demand. And we bring in subject matter experts on a wide variety of issues, many of which focus on career and career management, but a lot of them that also focus on just simply more effective leadership and professional development. There are learnings that come from all of those kinds of opportunities.
That's terrific, because especially for someone who's not working, there's a tendency to get sloppy and lose some of the quality habits that you have. And the reminders, particularly to executives, of what it takes to display your leadership in a good way.
Well, I tell you, now while we're talking about it, there's another reason why face-to-face is also important, and particularly in this day and age. It is so easy, particularly if you're in a job search, to get insular, as you say, and to sit at home and hide behind a keyboard as opposed to getting out. I don't know what your feeling is, but my guess is that this is a pretty intense activity. And not something that you can be doing, 12 or 14 hours a day the way you might have been doing it when you were employed. And it's really important to get some kind of a balance, to get yourself out of the house, to give yourself the opportunity to, as I said, expand your network. And face-to-face meetings, whether they're ours or other things that you're interested in either personally or professionally, help to do that. And that's an important part of this thing in terms of making it balanced.
As much as your friends and family may be encouraging you as the job hunter to be working even harder, like, you're not getting any more interviews, you got to try harder. Yeah. Sometimes what you need to do is to not try as hard and to slow down a little bit and not be so robotic in processing tasks that in our current day and age, it's so easy to get caught up in.
Right.
Ultimately, we're hired because we're human beings where we have particular skills and talents, experiences, and have achieved certain types of successes. And unless that winds up being displayed to people on a regular basis, we get stuck. So it's real important to slow down a little bit, get social, practice being social in a venue like yours, and just be magnificent. So we're starting to come up on the end of our time, Dave. I just want to make sure we've got, I know, a lot more material that we can cover, but I want to make sure my listeners hear some of your major points here, as I know we haven't hit all of them yet. So I'm going to hand the baton to you. What do folks need to know about ExecuNet, about live networking that we haven't covered yet?
Well, let me. I guess I would just say this. If I were to try to say what our mission is here, I started out at the beginning of the conversation saying that really our goal is to provide value, and that has always been the first thing on our agenda. But our mission really is to make executive lives better. And in that regard, I think we're a little bit different than others in this space because of the fact that we tend to focus and specialize on senior level executives, and that's by that I mean at the VP level and above. And the goal is, as I said, to make them better by being a trusted advisor, the source of information, and providing them with expert insight and connections to the right people that they might not have an opportunity to meet in another venue. And the fact that we are executives only is important because networking is about meeting and connecting with your peers, and so they tend to come to us, as I like to say, in confidence and with confidence in that regard, because here's a place where they can interact with that group. They can learn to lead better and improve business performance at the same time. So. And we do that in a very personal kind of a way, and so that's really kind of what we're all about. And I know that networking it's a term that when some people hear it, it's so overused in so many ways that it makes people's hair stand up on the back of their neck, particularly when it comes to job search. But as I've alluded to earlier in the call, it's really about an attitude that you bring, whether it's to job search or to life in general, and as you said it before, it's about giving. It's not so much about getting. And if that's the attitude you bring, the rest of it over time tend to take care of itself.
I'm an ex-New Yorker, so excuse me if I use New York slang, folks, but you don't want to be seen as a mooch. You don't want to be seen as always trying to take, and be selfish without giving something. People respond so much better to the givers in life. They want to help them. And that's how you wind up building the relationships that will serve you so well, not just simply in this job search, but if you continue cultivating those relationships, they'll serve you very well for the rest of your career.
Yep. And none of us like to be used. And I don't know, there's a sixth sense I think that all of us have, and it doesn't take us long to figure out when we're being used.
Very, very true. Dave, how can people find out about Execunet?
Well, it's easy enough. They can just go to the website, which is execunet.com, or and if they certainly have questions, I don't mind if they call me or just give us a call at 800-637-3126, and anybody who picks up the phone will be more than happy to help them.
And what sort of services does Execunet provide? I know you've spoken about some, but are there others that you haven't mentioned yet that people should know about?
Well, we do. Well, one thing, for example, that automatically comes with membership is we offer a complimentary review of people's resumes. And as I've told many members, the value of that review is not that it's free. You can get a free resume review. You spend the rest of your life getting free resume reviews. The value of that review is that we have vetted every single person who is doing that, and I can tell you that you may or may not agree with the feedback, but the feedback will be honest feedback, without anybody trying to beat you up about buying a resume or something. And we also offer for some members who want it coaching on a number of different levels for people who feel they want that kind of help. And as I mentioned, everything else that's part of the membership, there's no additional charge at all, other than the modest one I mentioned for attending a meeting. So we try to build as much as we can into it because, as I said, it's a membership, and the premier motivation behind that is trying to provide value.
And I'll also mention from my own experience, folks, that they have some very good job leads that are available to the members. So I've found it's been a good service for me to use to reach out to people at a VP level and above on searches that I'm involved with. And if you're at that level, it'll be a great tool for you to learn.
Yeah, I was actually focused more on the executive side, but I will, just in case people were wondering, again, because of the ubiquitous nature of job boards, we do post positions, but it's important for people to know that every job that is posted here comes to us directly from the recruiting source itself. We do not scrape the net. And at the levels we operate, and Jeff, I think you probably would agree to this, even on job postings, really only represents kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's really available. The recruiters and companies who utilize us would much prefer to come into the database, which they can do, and check out members' backgrounds either by profiles or resumes, and then decide who they want to reach out to.
I agree, and that's what I do.
So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few ways to get even more from me. First of all, visit my website, www.thebiggamehunter.us. I have several thousand blog posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read to help you find your next job. If you want the best of my advice, join JobSearchCoachingHQ.com, where I've curated my information with a focus on interviewing. If you have a few questions, contact me through the Magnify app for iOS. That's Magnify with an I at the end, or PrestoExperts.com, where you can call me. Schedule a specific time with me through chat on Magnify or by connecting with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Once we're connected on LinkedIn, you can message me about coaching you, speaking with me about a resume or LinkedIn profile critique, help with a salary negotiation, my trusted advisor services, as well as scheduling me for Magnify or for PrestoExperts.com. Like you, I don't work for free. You can also take my classes on Skillshare and become a premium member using the link in the show notes and receive 2 months for free instead of just the one that the site offers. Skillshare offers thousands of courses, not just simply mine. It is a great resource in a variety of different areas. Subscribe to my other podcast, which is called Job Search Radio. This one is number 1 in Apple Podcasts. Job Search Radio is number 2. Subscribe to both. You will get great information 7 days a week from this show, 6 days a week from the other. Lastly, I want to encourage you to join my group on Facebook called Career Angles. It's free to the first 500 people who join and is focused on helping you do better at work. Information is shared daily, and we're building a supportive group there to provide advice and counsel during difficult times. Again, the group on Facebook is called Career Angles. I'll be back tomorrow with more. In the meantime, have a great day. Be great!